What's up, Shelf Addicts? Welcome back to the Shelf Addiction Podcast. Today on Book Chat, we are continuing our reread of the Mercy Thompson series. This episode, we are covering Book 7, Frostburned. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, I am your host, Tamara, and welcome back to the podcast. If you're new here, we're going to feed your shelf addiction with fun book conversations, bookish topics, and more. It's like listening in on your favorite book club. Participate in this discussion by joining the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official or over on the Book Clubs app. I hope to hear your thoughts on today's show. You can also find me and Casey on Twitter and Instagram. The links for everything I've mentioned are below in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support the podcast by sharing it with some book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe before you leave. That will really help me out, and I appreciate you for doing it. The uncut video version of this podcast is available right now over on Patreon. Join us there for exclusive videos, including after shows and more. So if you're interested in that at all, you'll need to come over onto Patreon and sign up. As always with Book Chats, we talk spoilers here, so you've been warned. Without further ado, let's begin. Joining me is feature co-host Casey from Heartful of Ink. Welcome back, Casey.
Hello. I'm so happy and excited to be here. Like always. Yay.
Always. Yes.
Always.
Yes. So today we are doing another installment of our reread of the Mercy Thompson series. Today we are talking about Frostburned by Patricia Briggs, 7th in series, published March 5th, 2013 by Ace and Penguin Audio. The paperback is 308 pages. The audiobook is 10 hours and 2 minutes, narrated by Lorelei King. Casey, would you please share the synopsis?
Mercy's life has undergone a seismic change. Becoming the mate of Adam Hampton, the charismatic alpha of the local werewolf pack, has made her stepmother to his daughter Jessie, a relationship that brings moments of blissful normalcy to Mercy's life. But on the edges of humanity, what passes for a minor mishap on an ordinary day can turn into so much more. After a car accident in a bumper-to-bumper traffic, Mercy and Jessie can't reach Adam or anyone else in the pack for that matter. They've all been abducted. Through their mating bond, all Mercy knows is that Adam is angry and in pain. But she fears Adam's disappearance may be related to the political battle the werewolves have been fighting to gain acceptance from the public, and that he and the pack are in serious danger. Outmatched and on her own, Mercy may be forced to seek assistance from an ally she can get no matter how unlikely.
So if you guys tuned in even for a few minutes, if you tuned in on our live reading sprints for this, which took place earlier this week, you'd have seen that neither Casey or I remember what the heck was going on in this book. Neither one of us.
Not at all. Not a bit.
I'm like, wait, this is like brand spanking new to me. And that's, I don't know what to say. I don't know what that means that I had no memory of this book.
I was the same. I know I've read this book like at least 3 times. And I remember the car accident with Jessie in the beginning, but that was the only thing I remembered. I could not remember anything else about this book.
Same. So when I figured out who had Adam, when it was told, I said, oh yeah, those guys. I remember that. But then I kind of forgot again. And then at the end, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember her, get rid of all these ghosts. But like in between, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just here for the ride. It was very strange experience.
It felt brand new to me the entire time, literally up until the very end with the plot twists and everything. I was like, I have no memory of this.
No, I didn't know. I didn't remember that.
Which is not an indication of the book. It was a really, really good, exciting book. I just guess that, now that we're 13 books total, so many of the other plot lines overshadow each other. Mm-hmm. And this one, I was just like, I have no memory of it.
Yes. And actually, up until the end there, right when it was revealed who the money man was, right? I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot that. I did forget that specifically. I'm like, oh, yeah, she is really, you guys, Briggs is really good about bringing in past villains and past things into a newer book. So I'm like, wow, that must have been some real plotting to figure out to bring him back.
Oh, yeah. Because he comes back. Well, he doesn't come back, but they fight in this orchard again, right? In this vineyard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I vaguely remember the future fight. But this one,
This
I was
vineyard
just
is
like,
like the
nope.
place for showdowns, apparently.
It is. It is.
Because I'm, where are they? What's happening? It was so fun. But when I finished it, I'm like, oh yeah, I enjoyed that book, as I always do. I always enjoy these.
Same.
Yeah.
It was really good and really exciting. For like the last 3 Mercy books, book 4, book 5, book 6, we've kind of complained a little bit. We've said it's a little slow. You know, Bone Crossed took over 100 pages before there's any real action.
Mm-hmm.
With the last one, River Marked, there was a lot of buildup with the wedding and the honeymoon and Adam and Mercy having a good time together. And we talked about that literally last week.
Mm-hmm.
This book starts off with action and it never stops.
Yeah, it keeps going.
It goes until like literally the last page. There is nonstop action.
Yeah, she was feeling very action-packed with writing this book. It's very different pacing, I think. But there was also something else very different that we've never received in a book before this one. And that starts with chapter 6.
Yes!
We get a chapter from Adam's point of view. I'm like, oh,
yes!
There it is.
Finally!
I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot. It was in here. I was so happy to see it. I'm like, this is great.
I knew we got some chapters from him in the later books, but like you, I forgot it was this book specifically.
Yes.
And even just before that chapter, Mercy kind of used her magic and pact bonds to merge with Adam.
Mm-hmm.
So we were kind of seeing from his point of view. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, maybe this is where it starts. And like, we kind of see Adam's point of view, but we don't get all of it.
Yes.
But no, we got all of it. Again, like I could not remember a single thing.
So we got chapter 6, chapter 8. Was there one more?
Mm-hmm. I think it was just those two.
Because it was, at first, because I was listening on audiobook at this point, and of course, usually it's just chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 7, but this one it said chapter 6, Adam. I'm like, oh!
I know, yes!
I loved it. I love that little shift of perspective. I think it really added a lot to the book.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We get to see Mercy from a different perspective because we all see inside Mercy's head, obviously. We know how she feels about herself, how she views everybody. She knows she's fighting and kicking butt, but she sees herself as weak, as she says a couple times throughout this book. But Adam sees her in such a beautiful, strong, independent warrior woman way.
Yes.
That is just so beautiful to see that love he has of her.
Oh, I know. And there's this one part toward the end where he's like, you know what? If this same thing would have happened and my first wife was here, and then he kind of explains what my second wife does, you know?
Yeah.
And it was great. Yeah. It's like he really gets her. He really understands.
He does, yes. And for those of you who don't remember that line, Adam says, you know, what would my first wife do? And Mercy goes, she would have filed for divorce and run away and cried to everybody.
Yes.
And he's like, well, my second wife, she, you know, saved my daughter, saved the pack who wasn't taken. She went around kicking butt and taking names.
Yeah. I mean, she pulled, like, of course, leave it to Mercy to hear one thing from Coyote and just push it to the extreme. So at this point in the book, you know, the pack has been taken. They're all weak. They've been dosed with like this stuff that has silver in it, and it's supposed to keep them down.
Is from book 1.
It is. Interesting throwback.
Like everything is being tied together. This is the stuff that was used in book 1, Moon Called. Yeah. And, you know, we learned in Bonecrossed, book 4, that there was a vampire who convinced them to make this. And like the threads and the details that just continually come up between all of these books is so beautiful. I love it.
Speaking to that specifically, I didn't go back to book 1 to see, but I think it was implied that this serum or whatever was like just gone because they killed everybody, right? But no, no.
They thought it was done and taken
Yeah.
care of because Gary was killed. All of his wolves and all of his human people were killed. I think his name is David. David is the werewolf who came out. He was the hired gun, so to speak, to help Gary. And obviously he wouldn't use this. So yeah, no, it was very heavily implied that this silver nitrate stun gun stuff had been eliminated.
Yes. So,
but no, it's not gone.
No, it's not. It's back and it's in full action. Everybody on the ground laid out. And then Mercy somehow, through their pack bonds, which are getting stronger and stronger, and she's learning how to navigate them more and more, she's able to like talk to Adam and like have a full-on conversation with him. And she can tell like he is being poisoned and she doesn't think there's anything she can do. And then all of a sudden Coyote like kind of is off to the side telling her, well, you know, we changed the game, basically. We don't follow rules. And she's like, So what does she do? This woman tries to pull all of the silver out of Adam because he was trying to pull it from his pack and she was trying to pull it from him. But we later find out she did much more than pull it from him. She actually pulled it from Daryl and
Warren. And possibly a few of the others, like Ariel and maybe a couple other top wolves.
Right, because she was so sick. And it made sense at the end when we found that out. Because when she like vomited up all this silver the first time, she was still had a lot of it in her. And she's like, wait a minute, this seems like a lot more than it should be. And it was because it was not just Adam. So she ain't playing around. She like, I don't care.
She's not.
I'm going to save my man. I don't care if you don't like it. Sit down and shut up. Because he was actually talking about like sacrificing himself. And she like, oh no, I'm not going.
No, he definitely was like, if I die, that's fine. I have to protect my pack, so my death is acceptable. And Mercy's like, oh hell no. Oh hell no.
I'll fix this. And she does. She really does. So again, without her even being in the room, she saves them.
I think this is the first time Adam has been kidnapped and Mercy does not like literally pull him out of the cage.
Yes, he did get himself out, but without her pulling that silver from him, he wouldn't have been able to do it.
No. He also had inside help. So the hired mercenary human guy, one of the leader of them, had a change of heart, surprisingly, because the people who hired him started killing off his people. So he said, fuck this. I'm going to let the werewolves free.
Well, I think they kind of alluded to like the types of people that could work for somebody like this. Like mercenaries have a code, right?
Yes.
And they broke the code. So it's now F you.
Yes, exactly.
So they're just not just being paid. They're not just paid hands, but they live by, hey, we're in this in for a penny, in for a pound, as I've said in other podcasts. They are in this together. We work together. You don't stab me in the back. The minute you do, all things are off.
Yes.
And so he got down and had a serious conversation. And because I think they were both military people, and of course Adam is so smart, he knew the things to ask this guy. And he's like, oh, you asked the right question. Because he wasn't just going to volunteer all the information, but he gave it up when he was asked. And so, yeah, he got a lot out of that.
And then he handed Adam the keys, left the door unlocked, and was like, peace, I'm going to drive my men away. You do what you got to do.
Because he knew he was going to kill them all. And he's no problem. I don't have a problem.
Exactly.
Which he did. Oh my God. That scene, y'all. Adam went room to room, just slaughtering people. He was trying to be quiet at first, but then
he found the kill room, which had the list of every single person in the pack. It had all of the humans associated with them. So people who were mated to humans, possibly had human children. Mercy and Jesse were on the list.
The
Gabriel
Sandoval
was on the
kids
list.
were on there. Sylvia was on
His
there.
mother.
Yeah.
Yes. Which Mercy had stashed Jesse and Gabriel there, thinking that nobody would check because Gabriel had issues with his mother. But no, they had them all on the list.
Yeah.
They were going to kill him.
Yeah. And then he suddenly got a taste for that blood. And that is what happened. And the one time he's like, he wanted to eat that girl. He wanted to eat her. I'm like, oh my God.
He was like, I'm hungry.
He's like, oh, and he does say, only when I'm in this form do I like crave human people to eat, but which is good. Like, he's not just a cannibal off GP, but he's a werewolf and he's hungry, but well, I don't know. She get what she deserved.
Everybody in that entire building got what they deserved. And there was one sad thing that we didn't mention during the live because it is a spoiler, but Peter was killed.
Yeah.
And Peter is the most submissive person in their pack. He was over 200 years old, mated to Honey.
Yeah.
And the pesky, annoying human man just pulled out his gun and shot Peter in the head. And that happened, I think, in chapter 3.
And it was honestly,
it was so sudden.
He could have shot anyone. He wasn't even, he didn't know who he was killing. He just wanted to make a point.
He just pulled out his gun and aimed and shot, and it just so happened to be Peter.
Yes.
And it was absolutely devastating for everyone,
yes,
including Honey.
Oh, yeah.
And then Adam left that kill for Honey. So she got to avenge her mate, which was good.
Yes. Because she needed that, and he knew it. He's like, I'll kill everybody in here, and I'll leave this one for Honey.
This one for you.
You go ahead. He gave a little nod of the head, like, go on up there. He's waiting for you. She took him out. I'm like, maybe that will give her some peace knowing that she did that. And
I think so.
To me, it was almost even more sad beyond the fact that he was killed is that his ghost was still there. His ghost later. I'm like, oh my God, Peter is still here. He is still here. And he was being pulled until Mercy got her life again. She figures out and she calls him like he a damn dog.
Yes.
She's like, Peter, come over here. Cool. He comes.
She used her alpha voice. And she was like, Peter, you are mine.
She did. And it worked. He was able to.
It did.
Yeah. But man, and then of course the whole ghost thing, we'll get into that. But the fact that Peter was still there, it really broke my heart a little bit. I'm like, oh man.
That scene and then the very, very final scene, like the last page, that broke my heart.
I know. He was a very different ghost. He wasn't repeating or anything. He was very aware.
Oh,
yeah.
He knew who he was. He knew what he wanted. Like, he was able to communicate and tell Mercy things. He was a very intelligent ghost.
And he even said, oh, I just want to lay next to Honey one more night or be next to her. I'm like, oh my God. Oh. Well, and Honey has not been the best, easiest person to get along with, but
I wouldn't wish this on anybody.
No.
Like, she didn't deserve this pain.
No one does, really. But to have that happen right in front of you, oh my gosh, that's even more jarring to have to witness it. And so I did feel bad for her in this book. But, even during her little snooty times, she's mourning. So, of course, Mercy didn't want to leave her with kids.
Yes.
Mercy didn't want, because she thought she would be volatile.
Yes.
So when she decides to go, she's sorting out who comes and who stays. And she says, Honey, you're with me. And Honey looks at her. She's like, I'm in charge of you. Get over here. Shut up and come on. Like, and then, oh my God, the best part of it all is we just recently, leading into this scene, we found out that a seal shows up in this book.
Yes.
So in that scene, he's like, wow, they really listen to a coyote, don't they? Like, whoa, you got control of this pack, girl. Okay. I think he was surprised, but
he was a little surprised.
Yeah.
So Asil has been a very predominant character in the Charles and Anna Alpha and Omega series. We meet him like instantly in book 1. He's described as a very scary wolf, but he's also very soft and gentle around Anna because she's an Omega who reminds him of his wife. So, like, reading him in that series, you kind of forget how scary he is.
yes.
But then as soon as Mercy met him, she was almost
She's like,
terrified
"Oh,
of
the
him. She's
more!
like, oh my God,
The more.
the more is here. What am I doing? What do we do?
But then she chills. She's like, okay, if Bran sent him, it's fine. If Bran sent him, it's okay. But she does kind of throw him in that same lot with Charles. Like his fear factor of him is in that same realm of Charles.
Oh, yes. And that's a good thing because he is a very scary dude. He is very volatile. When he killed that Fae, he was ready to go kill some more. And like his wolf was right on the edge, ready to pop out.
Yeah, he was hungry. He was like, oh. And then Mercy's like, wow, I'm surprised he was willing to just kill her, kill anybody, because death and destruction. But he kept it together, though. He kept it together.
He did.
I love his character. He's such a good character.
I love him so much. And again, like if you haven't read the Alpha and Omega series yet, go read it. You get to see him. You get to see Charles. You get to see Anna. And it's just amazing and adorable.
Yes.
And action-packed and awesome and, well written, well rounded out. Highly. If you like Mercy, you'll love Charles and Anna.
Oh, absolutely. Asil even had that one short story with that girl. I can't remember.
Kara,
yes.
He is so sweet in that story. You forget that he has any negativity attached to him.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't remember, Kara was introduced back in book 2, Bloodbound, when her father approached Mercy because his teenage 13-year-old daughter had been turned into a werewolf and he was caging her every month and didn't know what to do. So she ended up moving in with Bran's pack in Montana. And in their short story, she befriends Asil the more. This scary beast of a man.
They become fast friends. Honestly, it's really cute. It's really adorable. So it's just like all that just to say that Asil's a really great character. And don't sleep on him. Like if you haven't read the other series, like Casey said, definitely do because it's worth it. He shows up quite a bit.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But again, like it was just so funny to like have all of these nice, sweet stories of him in my mind and then see Mercy like open the door and realize who he is, and she's squeezing Kyle's arm like, oh my God. I'm more scared of this man than anybody else we've met so far.
He's the guy, boogie monster. But that's how they are. Like a lot of the scary wolves, they are scary, but they're multifaceted. And if you are on their team, if you're with them and they are about protecting you, they will protect you. And they will not flash your face off or anything. But you don't want to be on the enemy. You don't want to be on the enemy side because they will eat you.
Yes.
So there's that. And even also like a character we haven't seen in a while makes an appearance in this book too. And that is Tad. He is like back. Yes. He's doing his thing, being half Fae. I'm like, wow, he's got a lot of skills that present in this book. That we're kind of like, I think not really. I've never seen him in this light. I don't remember reading about him in this light in previous books. Like he was kind of mentioned
in the first 6 books, I guess it's been. Tad is always mentioned as like, oh, well, he's Dee's human son. He's off at college. He helped Mercy. He ran the garage as like 9-year-old kid, but we never really saw him as a powerful entity.
Yes.
But, when we first started reading this book, we find out that all the powerful Fae have been called back. And Mercy, in desperate need of any sort of alliance or ally, calls Z, and he's like, I can't help you because I'm with the Fae, but there is somebody in my house who can help you.
Yes.
And that somebody just happens to be Tad.
Yep.
And yes, this is the first time we see that Tad has really any ability at all. Like, we didn't know any of this about him.
Like, we find out that, number one, he is super strong, very strong, because
he can get thrown out of a building
and live to tell
jump
the
right
day.
back up in.
Yeah, and he didn't even have any scratches. It was noted he didn't even have any like scratches or marks or anything on him.
Mm-mm.
So he's very resilient in that way, So, and also he has this real power of not, what is the word I'm looking for? Not where he can control things, but he has like this shimmery, like glittery personality where he can make like, pay attention to me over here. Don't pay attention over there. I'm putting on a show. I'm being, he's
I feel like that's almost just charisma.
Yeah.
And just him and how he presents and how he acts. And he's very good at telling the truth without telling the truth or telling half-truths. So you fully believe everything he's saying without questioning what he's leaving out.
Yeah, so
his father taught him that.
Yes, his father taught him very well. And I do kind of wonder, though, if the charisma has like a touch of magic on it. Like,
probably
not
a
like
little
he's
bit
possessing or, what is the word when vampires look at somebody and tell them what to do? What is the word?
Like mind control?
Mind control, or it's another word. I tried to remember it in the other podcast we did, and it's the same dang on word.
Oh, no.
And then, believe it or not, after the Vampire Academy discussion, I remembered the word, and now it's gone again.
Oh, no.
There it is. Compel. That's the word I'm looking for. What a mess. So
that's okay.
He can't compel people per se, but he is able to sway, right? I guess sway thoughts and not necessarily like tell them what to think, but he can, with his words, convince them. So it's a powerful skill to have when you know how to use it.
Oh, definitely. And he is wielding that magic.
Yes, he's got magical objects. And speaking of magical objects, y'all, okay, we need to take a quick break, but we're going to talk about magical objects because there are some in this book. I don't want it to get away from us, so it's break time. Check out these commercials. Do go on over to Amazon and pick up the book review journal. There's a link in the show notes. It's amazing. I was just using mine this morning, writing down stuff. Yes. And we'll be right back. Stay with us. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about magical objects. We're going to start with that. So we're talking about Tad and how he has access to magical objects in this book, several of them. He does several little magical things. And which one do you want to start with? Because we have the cuffs, we have the sword, we have
the mirror. Let's start with the mirror, just because we need to start with the cuffs because the cuffs leads to the mirror, then the mirror leads to the sword.
Okay, so the cuffs, so little do we know, the people that have harassed them and attacked them at Sylvia's place are Fae. When Mercy rolls up, she gets attacked by this woman and she tries to put a cuff on her. She gets it on her wrist for like a millisecond and she changes into a coyote and jumps out of it. So she had one cuff on one wrist for like a very small amount of time. And turns out this cuff is like, it had a name. It was like Peace and Harmony or something like that. Was that it?
I think so.
And it kind of like gives you this feeling of being high off weed. So you're nice and happy. And then you take instruction very well, So it's not like the cup where it was like, drink this and it's all scary and dark. This is more like, hey.
This is very casual. This is everything's happy. Just answer my questions. Do what I tell you to do.
Right. Right. So, and it's crazy because obviously Adam could tell something is wrong with Mercy, but he doesn't know what. But Tad is able to tell. He's like, Mercy, touch your nose. Mercy,
Mercy just
tap your leg 3 times. And then Adam's like growling. He's like, stop doing that. He keeps doing stuff.
Yeah, anytime you give Mercy any sort of command. Well, okay, so the woman attacks Mercy, puts the cuff on. She fights the woman off. A seal kills this fey creature.
Mm-hmm.
They go and fight the second creature in the apartment building while Jesse, Gabriel, his 4 sisters all escape. And then, as they keep fighting the second fey monster, Adam shows up and Mercy just goes, I'm happy.
She gets very happy and she falls into his lap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, which
and
by
that's
the way,
when she starts.
I love when she says, "Oh, I'm so happy. I fall into him like a ninny." I'm like, that word ninny that she uses is hilarious to me. That she calls herself a ninny because of how she's acting. It's hilarious.
But again, we see from his point of view, he doesn't see her as a ninny. He sees her as this warrior woman, and he's just so grateful that, again, she loves him back.
Yes.
But anyway, that's the moment Mercy changes, because she's now happy because Adam is back. And so all of a sudden, she just starts listening to everything, or starts doing what people say. So Tad says, touch your nose. And she's like, I wonder why he wants me to do that, but I'm going to touch my nose right now.
Mm-hmm.
So then they all pile into the car and drive off to Tad/Z's house. We're getting this from Adam's point of view because Mercy's just sitting there, happy and stoned and listening to people and,
Yeah, and Tad the whole time. And I know he's not doing, and it was explained, he's not really doing it on purpose. He knows he can't really tell wolves what to do. He'll say, hey, come on, Mercy, or hey, he is telling her things to do. And at that point, Adam's like, okay, we understand. Stop doing that. He's very pissed off about it.
Because Adam loves Mercy for who she is. And who she is a fighter. And she would never just passively, shut the door or passively
let him drive,
run after Tad when he says, come along.
Yeah.
Adam wants her to fight. He loves that spark. And we love Adam so much.
Well, I think not only did, Mercy have PTSD from that last experience with the cup, but so did Adam.
Absolutely.
Adam had PTSD too, because he was feeling that. He was really starting to get that, I don't want anything controlling her ever.
Ever.
And, of course, after that was even broken, which they did go through some lengths to kind of get that to break, which we can talk about momentarily. Mm-hmm. But even after that, Mercy had a little flashback. You got to shake it off.
Of course she did.
You know what I mean? She kind of fell right back into where she was, understandably, because it's these situations, while very different, they have an underlying similarity, and that is control of her.
Absolutely, yes.
But yeah, let's talk about how they broke the control of the cuff.
So they go to Z's house. They climb up into the attic. They pass a weird ghost lady, which is kind of foreshadowing for the ghost at the end. But they find this magical mirror, and Tad uses it to call his father out from the Fae reservation. And we see Z for who he truly, scarily is at this point.
No hiding. Asil notices exactly who he is, and he's like, "Oh my god!" He is very perturbed.
This scary motherfucker.
Yeah, he's your friend. First you're friends with vampires, now you're friends with this dude. He is very put out because I guess apparently back in the days he tried to kill him. Mm-hmm. And he escaped. So he's like, what's the problem? You're fine. You're fine. Get over it.
It just goes to show you how crazy Mercy's life is. She's friends with Z. She just sees him as a sweet old man who's kind of over his past, and he's not killing as much anymore. And Asil, the scary Moor, is like, excuse me, what? You're friends with this man, but you're scared of me?
Right.
What?
Like, this makes no sense, but okay. So Z comes out and, they kind of give him the update of everything. He finds out about the Cubs and okay, well, apparently I guess it was kind of, first someone said, oh, true love's kiss or some mess. So then Adam's like, oh, I'll kiss her. And he's like trying to like put the burn of his lips out of it because she still has silver in her body, like on her lips, literally.
Her lips are
and
black.
In her butt. Yes. He's like, I'm trying to remember all the things about Mercy. He's really trying to be passionate about it. And then all of a sudden, Mercy kind of realizes that she's hurting him by kissing him. And then suddenly she's like snaps out of it. She's like, get off me, blah, blah. So
she's like, what the fuck? How could you hurt yourself like this?
Do not let me hurt you. Blah, blah.
Yes.
She went off. And apparently it's more than just true love's kiss. You got her doing something she really didn't want to do. And that brought her she
and they used that to help her with her anxiety, to be like, if you really didn't want to do something, you can say no and break that spell instantly.
Yes. So, which she needed, because again, those old the mantras that she had in her head because of what's his face, they kind of were starting to at the edge of her brain kind of tingle.
Again, like, PTSD, anxiety, it's there. It's constant. You
gotta smash it. Like every time something like that comes up, you gotta squash it. Because like you don't want it to like dig in there and start like seeding, getting in there and like growing again. So that's, I think, a part of the reason why, Adam was like, look, you really didn't want to do something and you were able to stop. You are not under control of this. You need to, because you need to stop it in its tracks, or that could have been really detrimental. So I'm glad it didn't go there. We like cut it off.
Yes.
Which was just enough, in my opinion.
Yes, that reminder of, yep, she has past trauma. She's still dealing with it. It comes up no matter what, because she's human in the sense that we're all human and we all have these emotions and we're never fully over anything. And I really love that Patricia Briggs does that and shows that.
But like I said, that just is a testament to how strong Mercy's character is, because anybody weaker, that could have just took them down and then they'd be depressed and they'd be useless the rest of the book. Instead, you got to squash that shit and get back to business. It comes up, but you don't let it overtake you.
Exactly.
And that is Mercy, right? She got a little help, but it's her. She's doing the work.
And we love her for it. We appreciate her. We love her like Adam loves her.
Yes. Definitely.
So in that same moment, or, 2 minutes later, or whatever it was, Z starts pulling the silver out of Mercy. And he ends up with like a giant disc in his hand. And he's like, all of this was in you? And you already vomited up like double this amount?
Right.
And there's still more that I have to pull out of you? And that's when everybody realizes just how much she pulled, not only out of Adam, but out of the entire pack.
Yes. And so she, again, is like the superhero of the day, saves her mate, and helps the pack out. So it's like they have no choice, all of them, to accept her. They have no choice.
They need to accept and love her and realize that she is good for them.
Like she saved y'all. She helped in saving all of you.
Yes.
And of course, Z shows Tad how he pulled the silver out so Tad could go and do it for the other wolves.
Yes.
So later, just fast forward a little bit, he is helping one wolf out and Mercy thinks, oh, this is one of the bigot wolves, and then he's like, oh no, coyotes are strong, so he he was singing a different tune, but she thought it was going to be one thing and it was another thing.
Which was good. We need to see more of the werewolves' love on her and accept her for who she is.
Yes.
And of course, as his silver's being pulled out, he screams in pain, and Tad just ends up with this tiny little handful in the palm of his hand. And it's like, not even a fraction of what Mercy had.
No, she said, oh, mine took a lot longer than that. Like, you had it easy. So,
Which he did. He did. They all did.
yes, absolutely. And of course, like, so they have this, they're all like piled at Kyle and
Warren's house.
And of course, everyone's there. It's a lot of people everywhere. So Warren kind of guides them to the barn, the upstairs part of the barn. They have some little alone time, which is, needed.
Mm-hmm.
They needed to kind of come back together after all that drama.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They need that moment just between Adam and Mercy where they're like, okay, we've survived.
Mm-hmm.
We're okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to joke about suicide anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to.
Yeah.
We're just, yes.
Yeah, which was cool. And of course, then everything settles. They have a moment. It settles for a moment. Literally one moment.
Literally, yeah.
And off we go to the next part.
I mean, literally from page 1, Mercy and Jesse are out shopping at Black Friday, which is terrifying in and of itself.
Yes.
Then Jesse asks Mercy when she's going to have a baby, and Mercy crashes her car.
That would make me crash my car too. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. No, for this whole book, she's like, oh yeah, in that car accident. So my cheek is broken and my knee is injured and I just have bruises from the top of my face down to like my collarbones.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, there's never a moment of rest in this book for them.
No, because now they're off, a vampire she's never seen before pops up.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're kind of off to, Adam left. I can't remember exactly why he left.
He went to go talk to the press and the police and put their spin on everything that happened and say that, like, okay, so these humans kidnapped us and they wanted us to murder the senator, but we didn't want to murder the senator, so we escaped. And we didn't actually kill anybody. It was on fire. Like, the fire killed everybody.
But on the flip side note, he had decided to work with the agent that wasn't bad. So apparently these were like rogue agents that went on their own. So he told the guy the truth. He said, yeah, they dead.
Yeah, they're dead. We killed them all.
They're dead. You're not going to find anything. They didn't throw Elizabetta under the bus. So they just said, well, we just going to tell you you're not going to find anything.
Yeah,
and of
not
course,
even teeth or bones.
No. And then, of course, Warren's like, well, we thought ahead. We have their license. We'll give you a copy. But we'll keep it the original. So that happens. And so he's off. And now Mercy's like having to deal with this vampire she's never seen before. And he's like, oh, Marcelia wants to see you. Bring whoever you like.
Mm-hmm. So she brings Henny and a seal. Yes. And the seal's like, Adam's gonna kill me for this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll be okay. Fine. And of course, it's always, just when we think, well, at least like you had mentioned, this seemed like a human problem.
Mm-hmm.
But once the Fae got involved, I'm like, oh, what's next? And now it turns out, ultimately, it was a vampire problem.
I've legitimately, honestly forgot about that twist. Even though, like, we just read a book where there was a fight in the vineyard. And I think even in that episode, I kind of mentioned this book.
Mm-hmm.
My brain just erased it all. And so I was like, what's going to happen? And then Mercy's like, it's a vampire thing. And I was like, wow, it feels weird to like suddenly go to vampires, like from humans to a little bit of Fae. And now we're at the vampires. That feels like a bit much. But then, everything came out. I was like, oh yeah, now it all makes sense.
Yes. So, of course, Marcelia is doing the most all the time. She sees a seal. She spots a new wolf. She is trying her. What do you call it? She's shooting her shot.
She wants to enthrall him, and the way she did with Samuel back in book 1. Again, like the ties back to every single book, the mentions, the details, everything is all interconnected.
Yes,
and I love it. But a seal's too small. He's too smart. He knows not to look in her eyes. He knows not to get caught. I also think he's too dominant to get caught because he is a lot older and stronger than Samuel.
Yes.
And I think he may have tried to eat Marsilia if she did any more to capture him.
She was delusional, you know.
She was.
And of course,
she is.
Mercy takes another opportunity to kind of show her support of her protection, right? She's like, if you would don't do anything to him. If you try, you got to come through me. And Aziel's like, like, okay. Like, I see what you're doing. Okay, I can defend myself, but great, no problem. So he was kind of playing his role, right? He was not being the big bad at that moment. We got past that. And of course, Stefan shows up. Here he goes. He's there. It's like this a whole thing. And it turns into this
big, bloody, violent fight.
Yes. It's like we got teams. I pick the place. You pick the time. We pick our warriors. We gonna go. It's like, what? It's like an organized fight.
Yes. Fight club.
Right. Fight club. And it's like, that old dude. What's the guy's name again? From the bad guy who's in charge of all of this. What was his name?
Frost?
Yes.
Hold on. Yeah, Frost. I don't remember his first name.
But he's like, oh, I got my thing. I got my stuff. Let's go. And he brought all these ghosts with him. I'm like, oh, this guy. What is he up to? Of course, something bad.
Something real bad.
Yes. And Mercy again. Go ahead.
So he can control other vampires. He knows how to break them, how to mind control, compel them. He also knows how to eat ghosts and gain their powers. And he has this plan to take over all of the vampire seaths in North America and become the brand of vampires. And then on top of that, he wants to make all of the vampires come out to humans the way werewolves and fae have come out. But he wants to do it the nasty, scary way and just be like, hey, humans, we're going to start chewing on you.
We're here and your dinner. There you go.
Yes, basically. And so they mention a future villain. They talk about the Master of the Night, the Lord of Milan. Yes.
Yes. I'm like, oh, this guy.
Yes. Which he has to fight in the same place in book 13.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Again, the foreshadowing that Patricia Briggs does is so beautiful. Oh my God. Because, they may have mentioned him in a different book because we talked about Marsilia coming from Europe and being banished but this is the first time that they really talk about him and how much he loved her and how he banished her and Stefan and Wolf at the same time. Wasn't he in that
book where I can't remember which installment it was. I was just looking to see, but wasn't he also the main villain when Mercy was kidnapped and taken to Italy or wherever?
So this is the first time we see him or hear him, really hear about him.
Yeah.
Then she gets kidnapped. And then he comes back because, why not?
Yes. Why not?
Why not?
So all that. Oh, and the best part of the fight to me, all those things were interesting. All the power to power and strength is all that, all the fighting and throwing and stuff. But the best part was when Mercy figured out she could send the ghost back.
She can use her magic. Well, no, she can't use her magic. She uses her little lamb necklace.
Yes.
And breaks his power over the ghosts. And she can send the ghosts back to heaven or hell or whatever afterlife they need to go into.
It took her 2 tries to figure it out. So she calls them. She said, what's your name? She grabbed the girl next to her. What's your name? She tells her, she's like, whatever your name is, go. And she can't go. She's like, okay. So then she had the sword that Tag gave her. So she's thinking, well, I can see the strings he has holding you. Maybe I'll try to cut them. That didn't work. So then she's like, let me try. And she literally takes the necklace and puts it on their forehead. And then they go after she tells them to go. She's going around like a priest, putting a thing on people's forehead and go. Finding out their name and just sending them on their way. It's hilarious. I'm like, wow. That's a big job. Like, without that, they would have been, I don't know if they would have made it.
Probably not, because every time Frost ate a ghost, he got even more powerful. And he had 13 plus ghosts there. All of
Yes.
the people that Adam killed.
Mm-hmm. All those people. Oh, and of course, one guy, she lets go. And then she's like, even says something nice to him, like, oh, peace be with you. I know she didn't want to say it.
But he was the one who killed Peter.
Yeah. Look at her being the bigger person. I'd have been like, go to hell. She like, peace be with you. I'm like, Mercy, you're so kind.
So they fight and Mercy ends up stabbing him with the sword because he's jumping on her and she's holding the sword up and he basically impales himself. And right at that moment, Adam finally appears and starts ripping Frost to shreds.
But it's funny because, they're like, well, he was already kind of dead. But, all that extra flourish wasn't really necessary. Adam going to town trying to chew him up or something. That wasn't really needed. But okay. He had to get his anger out.
And yes, he was so mad because, again, we find out in the next few pages that Mercy had sent Peter's ghost away. She's like, go be safe. Just go. Well, Peter went straight to Adam.
Yes.
Because that's where he's safest. You know? So he runs straight to Adam. And Adam finds out what Mercy's doing and just runs to her.
But for once, in her defense, she did try. She couldn't just call him, but she tried to let people know.
Yes. She did calling
the smart
people.
Thing for once.
She had her backup. She was calling phone numbers. People have lost cell phones throughout this entire book while getting kidnapped and being stalked. And so, like, she's on one of the little girl's phones calling other people. Finally, she calls Tony, and Sylvia has his phone. So she's like, pass this message on to Adam.
Yes. So at least she didn't run off because she said that's one of the rules of being married. You kind of got to let somebody know, what you're doing. So at least she did that. But he was still pissed. I understand.
Of course.
I'm like, Lord have mercy. I know he was just really angry, though. I know he was, but he get over it.
He'll get over it.
Y'all both wild.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You just need to accept it.
They both yelled at each other at the end for all of the shit. They just need to yell at each other, get it out, maybe fight in the garage, and then, get over it.
You guys both have a hero complex. Y'all both want to save everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means y'all both going to do crazy things that you probably shouldn't do. Or you're going to do things you think you have to do to save people. You both do it. So just accept it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think that's it. What do you think? Do we reach the end or is there more?
I mean, we could talk about Ben.
Okay.
But no.
Talk about Ben we can't talk about Ben for a minute or two.
Yeah. I mean, like, we have given Ben so much shit throughout this series. We have. And he has earned that shit. Like, he's not a very nice person. He has some traumatic history, but also he swears like a sailor. But when everybody else is being kidnapped, he manages to escape and get to Mercy and help Mercy get Jesse and Gabriel to safety. And he's, a halfway decent guy. Although he's mostly, in wolf form throughout his helping adventure, I guess.
Yeah.
But also, like, he wants to help Kyle because he views Kyle as Pack. And Kyle is human and gay and being rejected by his own family. And the fact that Ben loves him this much just shows me that there is some goodness somewhere inside Ben. And so we're finally starting to see that twist. And I think Mercy's finally starting to see, Ben's not just an asshole. Yeah. She didn't insult him as much in this book as she has in previous books.
Yeah, so he doesn't seem... I feel like all the bad stuff was just really hearsay. None of it was proof. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she really had this horrible opinion of him. And I don't know, it was almost aggravating.
It was.
Yeah. So it was good that she was able to kind of let some of that go as he was doing stuff in this book. So hopefully we won't have to hear much more of that.
Yeah. Hopefully, future books. Ben's a good guy. We love Ben. He's
Yeah.
still a bit of an asshole, and he swears a lot, but we don't
Who
hate
cares? Who cares if he swears? My
him. Right?
gosh. That is the
Right.
biggest. What is the problem? What is the thing? And I understand that Adam is old school, right? Adam is old and he's old school. So he doesn't like to curse in front of ladies.
But
But
apparently he swears just as much, if not worse, than Ben when it's only
yes.
men in the room. So what a hypocrite.
Yes. So I don't know. I feel like making the point that he swears is something bad. I'm like, who cares? Who cares about
Right.
that? I don't.
It's Mercy and her weird lines in the sand, like we were talking about with Stefan and his menagerie. She was all up in arms and like, I can't support you getting humans, even though he's one of the good vampires and treats his humans right. And like, for her, cursing is also a line in the sand for some reason.
She is weird. She's a weirdo. I'm sorry. Mercy's a weirdo.
We love her, but she's a weirdo.
She's weird quirks, you know? All right. So obviously we are still enjoying our reread.
Yes, always.
So up next is Night Broken.
Yes.
I believe. That's a pretty cover.
It's a very pretty cover.
Yeah.
I love all of this artwork. And the artist has prints of all of these for sale on his website. And I'm so tempted to just buy like all of them.
The only thing that stops me, I'm like, where would I put that?
Right? Like that's the one thing stopping me too. But like, I want all of them.
Like, no, this does not match my decor.
But it's pretty.
It is pretty. So again, you guys catch us on YouTube next week, this upcoming week, reading Night Broken live on camera. We're doing reading sprints. You can join us and be a part of it. Talk about the book, read what you want. You can be productive. You can do other things if you want to join us. Otherwise, we'll be right back here again in your inbox next week with our discussion on Night Broken.
Yes, that'll be fun.
Yeah, so we are going to end things there. It's been a great time. Thanks for listening to this entire episode. And please don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button before you go. We'll catch you guys next time. All right, take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.